Thank you.
Okay, sorry. We'll call to order, and we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, first, welcome everyone here tonight, and thank you for coming out. We'll start out with the open forum, and just real quick, in addition to public comment on agenda items, the commission offers an open forum whereby citizens may comment on governance issues over which the city of Nacogdoches has domain. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members of the commission shall not discuss, deliberate, or make any decisions on topics not posted as an agenda item. Speakers should address all remarks to the commission and limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. And when you come up and speak, please state your full name and address for the record. We'll move into the consent agenda. Consent agenda item A is going to be approval of minutes. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes from January 9th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting? If you had a chance to review it. I was absent, so I cannot offer anything. With COVID.
I make a motion to approve.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say same. Okay. Moving on to approval of minutes. Item B, approval of minutes. Consider approval of minutes from January 25th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This meeting was a special meeting held at the Recreation Center. I think all of us were in attendance to that. And do we have a motion on this item, or the minutes?
I make a motion to accept these.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say same. Okay. I'll let the record show that that is approved. I'll move into a regular agenda. City Council receives staff recommendations and input on the following items and may deliberate and take formal action on the item A. Consideration, discuss possible action on items removed from the consent agenda. We'll move on. There are none, so we'll move on to 5B. Consider a request for approval of a zone change from A, agricultural, to R1, single family, for approximately 2.7 acres of land located along the eastern boundary of the city limits, being part of a 64.1 acre tract conveyed by HGT Group LP to JBSC Development LLC, as described in a warranty deed dated March 22nd, 2022, and recorded in the clerk's document number 2022-3135 of the Real Property Records of Nacogdoches County, Texas. This request has been submitted by JBSC Development, case file number ZON 2023-01. Ms. Planner.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes,
Elena Helton, City Planner. This property was recently annexed into the city, and as stated, is part of a larger 64-acre tract that the commission approved for R1 Single Family earlier this year. J.B. Crawford was not able to attend this meeting, but Alton Hayes, who's a representative, is in attendance should the commission have any questions. Again, this property was recently annexed into the city. Upon annexation, the property was immediately zoned agriculture. And so this is a request to amend the zoning district from agricultural to R1 zoning to match the remainder of the tract for future residential subdivision. The future land use designation of the property is agriculture. This land use is categorized or described as sparsely populated areas that have limited development and limited access to utilities. They're also for areas that are gradually transitioning into more urban and developed land uses. This request does fit into the goals of the 2003 Comprehensive Plan by encouraging infill development where it's compatible with adjacent land uses and located in close proximity to public utilities. As a reminder, this is also part of a 143 single-family lot future subdivision. That's part of a 380 economic development agreement that was approved by City Council in 2022. And so the 2.8 acres that's on the agenda for review is along that southern boundary of that lot layout that you see on your screen. The property will take access from Park Street, even though it's located on the periphery of the city limits. It's part of that larger tract. And so this is just some photos of the actually future entrance into the property. You see the zoning sign located there. These are photos of the actual property. It's very wooded, undeveloped, and the intent is to develop it into a future residential subdivision. Because of the size of the property and the adjacent properties, there were only 2 property owner notices from the 200-foot and 500-foot buffer, but we did go ahead and send a letter to the Village Gate HOA. And we talked to them on the phone, just letting them know about the request and making sure they didn't have any questions, and they didn't have any concerns. So just again, the 2 property owner notices plus a mailed notice to the Village Gate HOA. And that's just because of the size of the property. The conditions for approval for zone change are outlined on your screen. We went into those in detail in the staff report, but essentially we're looking for compatibility with adjacent properties, making sure that the request doesn't impede the natural orderly growth of surrounding properties, making sure that all the accommodations are provided for drives and parking and lighting, which will be included in future development plans, and compliance with the 2003 Comprehensive Plan. And so with that, staff does find that the request meets the criteria for approval, and we do recommend approval. This item is scheduled to be heard by City Council on February 21st. And again, the applicant is in attendance if the commission should have any questions. And so that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any-
Would you like me to step aside so we can open the public hearing, or does the commission have any questions first?
I'll ask my-
I have a question that's just general information, but the lot BK, which appears to be outside the city limits, just due south of the subject property,
Yes, ma'am.
it wasn't included in the notices sent. Is that because it's outside the city limits?
Yes, ma'am.
So the way the state law reads, you're not required to send a notice if a property is within 200 feet but outside the city limits?
Yes. So if it's if it's within the 200-foot buffer, they do get a letter, with the exception of property that's not within the city jurisdictional boundaries.
Is it in the ETJ?
Yes, it is.
So it doesn't extend to people in the ETJ?
No, ma'am.
Because it just seems like, rightfully so, you go out of your way to let people know that might have a concern, even if they're not technically in the 200 feet like you did with Village Gate. But it just seems odd to have a property so adjacent and not reach out to them.
Well, it's my understanding that the applicant actually purchased this property from that property owner to the south. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was my
fault.
I apologize for that. Didn't mean to make a scene.
Thank you. So Alton Hayes may have some more information regarding that, but practice has been to not send notices to those property owners outside the city. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Is it perhaps that inside the county, there's no requirement for particular zoning like this anyway?
Yes. So we don't have zoning outside of the city limits. So in the ETJ, the only thing that we regulate is subdivisions and signs. So there is no land use, which is, speaks to, the practice of not sending notices to those people because they don't have any other voting authority or election authority or anything like that. So they are treated a little bit different in these types of processes.
And if the landowner was on the other side, it'd be a moot point,
Mm.
essentially,
Yeah.
the development. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Right,
it's just
but
curious, just
Mhm.
wanted to
Yeah.
expand my education.
No, it's a good
learn
question.
something too.
Elena, I have a question for you. So this
Yeah.
little piece that we were actually voting to change on zones, why wasn't it proposed also in alignment with what Jacob Crawford brought in for the tract of land that's right south of it?
Yeah, so at the time, it was actually located outside the city limits. City council just annexed it last week.
Oh, last week,
And
okay.
so
Got it.
we weren't able to actually bring it forward until the approval of the annexation. So
Makes more sense,
It was
yes.
a little behind schedule.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
okay, understood,
I should have
thank you.
clarified, thank you.
You probably did, and I missed it, so thank you very much.
That confused me whenever we were looking at it
Yeah.
before, because I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
that on the
Right,
agenda
I was
for
like,
that,
why
and I
was it, yeah,
So in the previous request, there were no color.
Right.
There was no, because it was outside the city, so,
okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
If we're good, then we'll open it up to public comment if there's any questions.
Thank you.
And if there is not, do we have anybody remote? No?
No.
Okay. We will close it for public comment and open it up for commission discussion. Is there any other further discussion or questions?
I'm just curious why the city boundary was drawn like it was.
Oh,
That
so,
may be before your time, but
So I dug a little deeper, and I was able to find that little donut is the result of annexations by separate property owners around that area that created that. And so you had annexation requests for all these surrounding property, but this wasn't one that was included. And so it wasn't necessarily that the city intentionally didn't annex it. All of the surrounding annexations were voluntary. They were, requested by the property owners. And so that resulted in that little strange donut shape.
that makes sense, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It took me a while.
Yeah, well, it was,
Yeah, it's odd.
can't not wonder. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If nothing further from my fellow commissioners, we'll move for a motion. Do we have a motion on the matter?
Yep, I make a motion to approve it.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so carries. Moving on to regular agenda item C, 5C. Consider a request for approval of a specific use permit for an accessory apartment for lots 18-A and 19-A, City Block 67, located at 315 East Lakewood Street. This request has been submitted by Lydia Harbor, case file SUP 2023-01. And we'll turn it over to Madam
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Again, this is a request for a specific use permit for an accessory dwelling unit. These properties are allowed in single-family zoning districts with approval of a specific use permit. And what that process does is it allows city staff, the commission, and city council to review these requests on a case-by-case basis and then impose any conditions, if necessary, on the development based on existing conditions. And so there is an existing residence located on the property. Again, it's zoned R1 single family. The surrounding area is predominantly zoned and developed also as single family, with the exception of some multifamily and commercial located on the west side of North Pecan as you get closer to North Street. There are some precedents for accessory dwelling units in the neighborhood as you get farther north along Reggae, but primarily it's a single-family character. The future land use designation is also a single family, and this request doesn't change the underlying zoning district or any of the uses that are permitted in R1. It just allows for this additional use on this property. Every specific use permit is submitted with development plans that get adopted as part of the approving ordinance. And so on your screen, this is an actual survey of the property. The applicant is proposing to utilize the existing detached garage/shop and renovating that into an accessory apartment. The existing shop is about 600 square feet. They're planning on expanding that to include 656 square feet, so approximately 56 square foot addition onto the back side of the property. And they're proposing just a one-bedroom apartment, which just slightly expands that existing footprint. The primary living area will be on the first floor with a small bedroom loft on the second floor. The maximum area permitted for accessory apartments is no more than 30% of the main structure. So however large the primary residence is, you take 30% of that, and that's how large the accessory dwelling unit is permitted to be. In this case, the residence is a little over 2,500 square feet. And so the proposed apartment is about 25.5%. So it is below that 30% threshold for the maximum size. There's also limits on the occupancy of these types of structures. So they're limited to caretakers or people employed on the property. Think of a live-in nanny or live-in nurse. They're also allowed to be lived in by family members of the second degree to people who are occupying the primary residence. So grandparents, grandchildren, aunts, nieces. In this case, the applicant is, she lives at the primary residence. She's planning on using the apartment for her new primary dwelling, and her adult daughter will live in the main home, and that'll be the permanent living arrangements. But there won't be any separate utilities, there won't be any separate addressing, and they won't be allowed to rent it out to non-family members. The proposed square feet for the main floor is 567 square feet. Again, it's got a kitchen area, a living area, bathroom, and on the second kind of small loft area is an 89 square foot bedroom. These are renderings of the proposed structure, and so the entrance will face East Lakewood, and then on the upper floor, there'll be some windows to allow natural light, but that'll also be facing the street. So there won't be any additional views into adjacent properties from the main structure. There aren't any more upper level windows except for the front of the facade that's facing, again, East Lakewood. These are some photos of the property. You see the zoning sign in the front. And so this is the street view of 315 East Lakewood. That's that accessory or that accessory structure that you see that they'll be renovating into the new accessory apartment. And the driveway that's there today has plenty of room to accommodate parking for the new dwelling unit and any guest parking, because the main home already has a built-in detached garage, so parking shouldn't be an issue. These are just some other photos of properties in the area. It's primarily residential, again, with some multifamily commercial as you move west along East Lakewood. Staff finds that the proposal will be compatible with the adjacent development. They are planning on designing it so that it really matches the existing home and blends in with the development, so it shouldn't be any kind of aesthetic detraction from the character of the area, and it should blend in with what's there today. As part of our notice requirements, we did mail 17 letters to property owners within the 200-foot area. We did receive one response form from a property owner located farther west along East Lakewood. We included the response form in your packet. We did call the respondent and try to get some more details about their specific concerns, and they said that they really wanted to make sure that the new apartment didn't turn into additional rental property. And we explained the limitations on occupancy and things like that. So her concerns are addressed in the ordinance, but she still wanted to make that statement and make it known to the commission that that was her concern. The applicant also held a neighborhood meeting on January 24th, and we had about 9 attendees. It says 7 here, but that is a typo. It's actually 9, so I just want to clarify that for the record. Most of those were within the 500-foot buffer, but 2 were in the 200-foot. And so after we explained what the proposal was, there was general support of the proposal. No one opposed at the neighborhood meeting. So the review criteria for a specific use permit is the same as those outlined for a zone change. Staff does find that the request meets the conditions for approval, especially with the additional regulations outlined in the ordinance for accessory dwelling units. And so staff does recommend approval of the request. Again, this item is scheduled for city council review on February 21st, and Ms. Lydia Harbor, the applicant, is in attendance if the commission has any questions for her. And that concludes staff's presentation.
So current resident sits on 2 lots,
Yes.
basically going to convert an existing structure into a nicer existing structure that's livable.
Yeah. Right. So think of it as like a mother-in-law quarters.
Of course. I don't know if I want well, I love my mother-in-law.
You're being filmed, Shannon.
Sorry, love you, mother-in-law. My fellow commissioners have any questions for?
I'm curious about, how is the rule about family members, including second-degree family members, how is that enforced?
So what we do is if we get a complaint about a concern that there are people living there who shouldn't be there, we will initiate an investigation and we'll start monitoring the property. First, we'll check with our utility billing to see, like, is there any kind of separate billing that's set up? We'll also keep an eye on the number of vehicles and the type and who they're registered to get an idea of, like, is this person driving that vehicle? Do they actually live there? And then we can actually reach out and request a copies of leases or anything of that nature. And if we do find that they're in violation, we can actually revoke the specific use permit and go through this process again. So if they're found to violate any of these, they get that permit removed so they can't use it anymore for that purpose. So there is some there are some avenues for ensuring compliance with the regulations outlined on the screen.
It's basically complaint driven.
Yes, ma'am, because we don't have a,
There's no other way to,
no, we don't have a good way to monitor these types of uses, so we do rely on the neighbors to let us know, hey, we think there's something going on over there.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the neighborhood meeting
yeah.
and people
was
that I've
good.
attended. Yeah, it was good, and it calmed a lot of people, and then it makes it easier for us to make decisions on it, so thank you.
Thank you. Woo. Anything? No, you're good. You're good. Anything else? Okay. We'll move it to public comment. Are there any comments on this? Would the applicant like to speak on it? You're not required to, but if you want to, you're more than welcome. You'll need to come up. You'll have to come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
So they can get you on camera.
My name is Lydia Harper. I own the property in 315 East Lakewood. With reference to Ms. Forbes, is that my family is very small. I just have 2 sons, no father, no mother, no sister, no brother, none of my in-laws.
Cheap Christmas.
So that will be easy, and we're trying to do an easy way for when I become more senile and cannot live by myself. So mostly that is the purpose of this. And my daughter also, both are single, my son and my daughter. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so that will ensure Ms. Forbes' comment that it goes that way.
No, you're-
Okay.
You're good. Thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll open up to the commission for any further questions of the applicant or our city planner. Nothing? We can give Margaret just a second. We'll make a motion on this one.
I kind of wanted to go check on her.
I'll go see how she's doing.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I know we have a large audience probably out there listening, so we're waiting on Commissioner Forbes.
Sorry, Capri.
You're okay. Good news is, we just need you for 1 second here for you. Hopefully you're not coughing any longer. Okay. For the item 5C, do we have a motion for this item?
I make a motion that we advance this with no further
Conditions.
conditions, thank you, to the council.
I second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, so moved.
I just want to add that this is exactly the type of development that would really help ease the housing shortage, especially since it's very affordable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're doing it.
I think it's a good way to improve your property, add value to it, and serve your family better.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Sorry I missed what you had to say, but
We'll move on to item 6, City Council decisions on planning zone cases. On January 17, 2023, City Council took the following action items on the listed below, and you want me to cover it, Elena, or you?
Oh, no, I don't mind. So the item that you guys just approved was a part of the property that was approved with council for the 61 acres from PD to R1. And so hopefully when this item gets moved forward, it'll also be approved, and so we'll have one contiguous zoning district on that property.
Sounds good. And move on to item 7, discussion and possible action on future agenda items. A planning and zoning member may inquire about a subject for which notice has not been given. A statement of specific factual information or the recitation of existing policy may be given. Any deliberation shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on an agenda for a subsequent meeting. Do we have any items?
I do have one update. Our next regular meeting is March 13th. And we do plan on having Keith Walzak with DTJ remote in and give you guys an update on the comprehensive plan and talk about a couple of those things that were mentioned in the email. Also, our 4th NAC Together survey is online. It's the Housing and Economic Development Survey. It's going to be up till February 28th. And so I will, if you guys signed up for updates, you should have received that email, but if not, I'll forward it to you as well. So I encourage you guys to go online and complete that survey for us.
Okay.
And those are all the updates that I have.
Well,
Elena,
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
said the items that were in the email, which email are you talking about?
In regards to walkability and sidewalks and how that relates to the comprehensive plan, the one that Lily sent
Yeah.
last week. Yes, ma'am.
And also, just as a carryover from the previous meetings, you did say that you would talk about zoning options and.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and we
Smart
can incorporate
towns or
that.
whatever.
We can incorporate that into that meeting as well.
That would be great.
We do have a zoning item that's going to be on the agenda, but I don't think it's going to be very long. So we can include that second workshop. I just didn't want to overdo it and have like a super long meeting. But absolutely, we can do that. We may have the zone change item first, so that way we can get the applicant home, and then we can dig into the workshop, if that's all right with y'all. Just
Yes.
reorder the
Yes,
agenda.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
All right. So we'll have 2 workshop items.
anything else?
Nope.
I'd like to thank you, Lena and Juan, for all that you do, and Amy for taking the minutes, and the note taker over there. I see you diligently writing, so thank you for doing that. If there's nothing else, then we'll adjourn this meeting.